Hi, thanks for joining us on the BeOne Cancer Has No Borders podcast. Today, I'm really thrilled to have Matt Shaulis, our General Manager of North America, join the show. Matt joined BeOne in September of 2024. He came from Hansa Biopharmaceutical, where he served as the U.S. President. Prior to joining Hansa, he was President of Pfizer's Inflammation and Immunology for International Developed Markets, and previously was Pfizer's President of North America Oncology. I want to welcome again Matt Shaulis to our podcast. Welcome, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Zach. It's great to be here.
Matt, you've had a long career in biopharma, and life sciences. Tell me a little bit about your background and what initially drew you to this industry.
Yeah, sure. My background, even as a kid, involved moving around a lot and assimilating regularly. I grew up in a military family, and I moved every 2 or 3 years. I lived on the East Coast, in the Southeast, on the West Coast. Went to Germany, where I lived for a couple of years. Back to the Midwest and the South, then back to Germany another time. Finally, ended up in Eastern Pennsylvania. Went to Penn State. Later, after a couple of years starting my career, went to Duke for graduate school. So bounced around a bunch. What I found is that that really helped me assimilate rapidly into new locations or new companies, or even being in new roles over the course of my career.
What was your first job after you graduated?
Yeah, so right out of school, I was in finance, and then pretty quickly found myself working at Johnson & Johnson. And then after I went to graduate school, I worked in global within J&J, and then also worked in inline capacity within the U.S. Quickly found myself in oncology at J&J, and then later had a chance to join a small mid-cap company, Cephalon, which was growing an oncology business unit. Was able to join that team and launch a really important new molecule within CLL. Grew rapidly. And next thing we knew, the company got acquired.
Of course, that's how it happens.
I was a part of Teva, and then moved into a global therapeutic area lead role at Teva before wanting to really get back, into oncology.
Yes.
So found myself in short order at Pfizer, where I was the president of North America Oncology, and I had wonderful opportunities to grow that product portfolio dramatically, help many, many more patients through that growth. And then I was fortunate, within the industry to have an opportunity to serve as the president of immunology in Europe and Asia. Lived outside of London and really grew. My family had a wonderful experience. I grew professionally by taking some of those global experiences I'd had and then applying them in, an operating role outside of the U.S. And after some time at a biotech, which I really enjoyed, learned about BeOne and, found that opportunity irresistible.
Yeah. Would you ever want to live in Europe or Asia Pacific one day, or would your family want to do that? I should ask that. That's the most important thing. Would your family
absolutely.
do it?
I mean, my family really enjoyed the 3 years that we spent living outside of London. And, the 2 previous times that I'd lived in Germany were great experiences, right? So I'm as American as you can get. People that know me recognize that pretty quickly. But having an exposure to those other cultures was fantastic. And I find here at BeOne that we have phenomenal colleagues from all around the world. Tremendous foundation of success in China, really strong platforms here in the U.S., in Europe, in other parts of APAC, right? So we're in new markets too, all around the world. So I really think that that's a great professional experience. It's also a great personal experience for people. And I suspect that in time, my kids will probably, once again at some point live outside of the United States.
Yeah. So as most people that work here, I've done employee interviews, and one of the questions I asked was, did you ever have an impact personally of cancer, whether it was with a friend, yourself, or a family member? What about you? Was there any personal impact that in your life of someone that had cancer?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the great motivators that I bring to work every day, right? And this is a big part of why the purpose-driven culture and the mission here at the company are so important. Years ago, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. This is despite some regular monitoring. And of course, when a patient is initially diagnosed and already at stage 4,
Yeah.
The prognosis is usually pretty poor. And she had the good fortune to be HER2 positive. And of course, there's been some phenomenal innovation within HER2 positive, breast cancer over the years. And whereas you normally would think that, a patient might only have a few years with that type of diagnosis, we had 9 years with my mom because of the innovation within the HER2 positive space. And so I really respect the work that was done within our industry to develop treatments for patients with that specific profile. And I think too that our molecules are doing that same thing. They're giving patients, more opportunity to be with their family and friends and extend their lives. And I know, for example, with our current products, a BTK inhibitor class, where we have a best-in-class molecule, I take great satisfaction in our company providing that same kind of opportunity for patients and their families that we benefited from.
So what made BeOne the right choice for you, and what excites you most about what the company's mission is?
Yeah, I can talk through that as the process sort of unfolded for me when I thought about joining the company. And I think this is one of those situations where the more I learned about the organization and how it has a differentiated business model, the more excited I got about the success the company's had and also the kind of impact that it can have for patients in the future. So there were some colleagues that I'd worked with previously in my career that were here, and they're the ones that contacted me. And I pretty quickly learned that some really talented, outstanding, industry experts are already here at the company. In fact, there were a number of different organizations that I'd worked at previously where colleagues have now found their way to BeOne because of their expertise in oncology. And of course, one of the earliest things I did was have some conversations with John Euler, who is a visionary leader, not just on the founding of the company, but the way that he's shaped it to be really differentiated within our industry and really position the company through those capabilities to do really great things in the future. I knew about the company's success with the BTK inhibitor, and I was also aware of the general reputation of the pipeline. I researched that, and the pipeline was even broader and even deeper than I had realized, with some really exciting MOAs and targets. But I think really the final things that made the difference for me were that I learned more about the differentiated business model for the company. The foundation of research and discovery in China allows us to take more molecules to POC at speed, at lower cost, but also we get more data by taking more molecules to POC, and then we can pick winners that we're assured are higher chances of being best in class. And then our clinical development approach, which really sort of uses a lot less CRO and focuses in on internal, company capability to manage our trials, then lets us accelerate the clinical development of those winners that we've picked at POC. And because of those factors, we can be more courageous. There are areas where we've gone with superiority studies when we've seen others in the industry only go with non-inferiority programs. And all of this puts us in a position to do more for patients around the world, to bring molecules to a broader range of patients with affordability and accessibility. Because the earlier parts of our process run faster, they run less expensive. They then let us meet, patients across a broader range of different market types all around the world.
Yeah, I mean, we're covering 80% of cancers in the world in our pipeline, which is pretty amazing, which is one of the things that drew me here actually to BeOne whenever I read that.
Yeah, I think it's the depth that we can go to, and the way that we can really try to unify stakeholders across the full range of the oncology ecosystem. Those studies and those differentiated molecules are in a lot of ways just the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing that Malika Davis, who's head of our clinical trials, is doing it 100% internal now. I mean, that's really a huge accomplishment, I think, for a company. So
and we continue to see ways where if you sort of benchmark our clinical development activity, we can get faster to identifying a dose, or we can compare a phase 3 study to a benchmark in the same disease state with other molecules, and we'll read out faster and have a good diversity of patients within those studies. So it's not just about speed and cost. It's also about the quality of the data that we generate and the way that it represents, the populations in the countries where we
I mean, it's pretty amazing. We're across 6 continents now. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my understanding is it's over 70 different countries as well. And, we have ambitions to make affordability and accessibility even broader than that.
Yeah. So we just recently changed our name from BeOne over to BeOne Medicines. And tell me what went into that decision, and what does that name represent to you versus to the company?
Yeah. In fact, I could probably relate some of that back to the way that I viewed the company when I first joined it. And I have to say, I thought when I was learning more about the company that while the name really served some important purposes when the company was initially founded, that in fact the company had become much more global over time, and that maybe something like a name change could be in order. So I have to say I was pleasantly surprised when I joined, and I learned that in fact there were big plans to do just that. For me, BeOne really speaks to the heart of what makes oncology unique, that patients matter, that providers matter, investigators matter, stakeholders that are a part of the payer landscape, they matter too, and that communities that are really built around supporting patients are important. And I think that this whole idea of BeOne, that we want patients to be cancer-free, that we want the community, that ecosystem around them to unite, that really ties into the one element of our name. And I think all of it is really driven by the company growing substantially on a global basis. The fact that we do clinical development all around the world, that we have a manufacturing footprint across multiple continents, that commercially now we've gone to as many markets as we have. I think that the new name really positions us accurately for what we're doing today and what we're going to do in the future.
So Matt, BeOne is truly a global company, but success starts regionally. So what does our presence in North America look like today, and how is that going to contribute to the global impact that we have?
Yeah, I think North America and the United States are going to be a really important part of the future organization. I'm really proud to lead an organization that today across functional areas is right around 2,000 colleagues in the United States. And I think this demonstrates how much we've grown, how big that team is relative to the size of the overall global organization. And we've really evolved within the U.S. I think our first offices were actually in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. We now have a flagship manufacturing and administrative facility in Hopewell, New Jersey. We have offices in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we're really pleased to now be opening a new facility, another office facility in San Carlos, after for many years having had some facilities in San Mateo. So we really are growing, not only sort of in the footprint, but really in great people that continue to join the organization. And I'm really proud to say that we're now in a position where we're here in North America. We've got 74 clinical trials that are ongoing, about 2,000 patients enrolled. And I think this really speaks to some of the promise of what we'll see with the pipeline in the future.
Yeah, that's across 49 states too. So that's really covering a big kind of demographic and different, like you said, you want to make sure that you're covering all types of people. And I think that's what that's showing.
I mean, this shows a real commitment to the way that we want to be engaged and involved in communities all across the U.S. And also from an industry perspective, we're very, very active here in California, which is immensely important for biotech and biopharma. Obviously, Cambridge is a really important part of the Boston biotech community. And then that Hopewell facility is right in that crescent of biopharma. and the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut area. And this is not just because we want to be active in those spaces. It's also where we access industry-leading talent, and that allows us to develop great molecules, bring them to the market, and help patients. So it's also thoughtful, where we've decided to grow and expand in the U.S.
Let's talk a little bit about Hopewell, because I've been there and it is an amazing facility. And I did some employee interviews there, and I've never seen such happy people at a place of work, because everyone just loves the new facility. It's huge. There's a great manufacturing. Tell me a little bit about Hopewell.
Yeah, so I think one of the great things about Hopewell, it's anchored around having a biologics manufacturing facility. Mm-hmm. It also has capacity to do some clinical R&D, and then we'll also be putting some administrative offices in place. Yeah. It's over 40 acres and 400,000 square feet of space and capacity. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's anchored right in the middle of where there's a lot of great, talented colleagues, within biopharma. So it certainly builds on our capabilities, but it also is an opportunity to be a magnet for great talent. And the team there has done phenomenal work. There's a really, really talented general manager and leadership team in place, and the speed with which they've been building out that facility and working towards bringing it online for some of our products is breathtaking. It's a great example of innovation and drive for excellence and focus on patients, which are some of the company's core values.
Yeah, a lot of the employees that we met there were also had family members or friends that were touched by cancer, and some of them talked about their stories, and it's just like every day they're going into work, and that's what they're thinking about, how they can help other people. So it's in a really amazing group of people that work there. So
yeah, you can definitely feel the energy.
You can.
When you're in Hopewell, you can tell that it is a purpose-driven, and mission-driven culture. People all across the company make discretionary effort daily. Yeah. And you can feel that energy then when you're in Hopewell. And I think it's starting to be the same way here in San Carlos, right? Yeah. We're new at this site, but every day we're building the energy here.
Yeah. So BeOne's really involved in the patient community, especially in North America. We have partnerships with American Cancer Society, CLL Society, and many more. So why are these partnerships so important to our mission here at BeOne?
Yeah, on a couple different levels, they're really critical. For starters, it ties back to this whole concept around the name BeOne, that we want to build a community and be engaged with all stakeholders. Mm-hmm. And the way that these organizations represent the voice of the patient is so critical for us. Yeah. I think the other thing that's really important about engaging with them is that they're often the first point of contact for patients. And so we want to be a great partner to them so that we can help them, enable them in fulfilling their own mission in supporting patients. So there's things like educational programming where we take a lot of involvement in those organizations, where we want to support them. One example is the concept of test before treat. Yeah. We're in a current partnership with the CLL Society around this, and we share an interest in ensuring that patients and their clinicians really understand the risk factors that patients have before treatment decisions are made. And we think that this broader awareness around clinical parameters not only will lead to better treatments, but that in turn will then lead to better outcomes. So I think that's a particularly strong example of how we're aligned with that community. But we also do some other things like translation of materials so that patients are well informed when they're just thinking about the disease state, let alone about the treatments that they might get. And then finally, the company has been really, really fortunate to have a strong partnership with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and Light the Night.
It's an amazing event.
What a huge driver. Yeah. Our colleagues, again, because of the tremendous motivation that they have from our purpose-driven culture, really rally behind this cause. It's a really unique set of events because it's your chance to be live on site as the sun is setting, doing a walk where patients and their families are present. And so it's not just financially supporting them, but it's also supporting them emotionally and with your presence.
Awesome. So not all patients, as you know, have access, you mentioned this a little bit before, to high quality cancer treatments, whether it's low income countries or it's underserved communities. How is BeOne working to kind of close those gaps, and through partnerships, through clinical trials, through other initiatives? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. And, again, I had seen a lot of this when I was in global roles, saw the impact of this in U.S. roles, and then also, saw some of what this looks like in other markets outside of the U.S., particularly, Europe and Asia. And so I think that we do, I think, at least our fair share, probably more than that, to really follow through on our mission on affordability and accessibility on really a global scale across all those different market types. And I would say I'll sort of start with, sort of middle income and low income countries. And there we have something called the Max Foundation. And this is a 3-year partnership program where we've provided access to BTK inhibitors for patients in countries where, frankly, people have a really hard time affording their medicine. So we're really pleased that we've been in 29 low and middle income countries, and some examples include Armenia, Ethiopia, and Nepal. But we're really just getting started with that.
Yeah.
I think that we've also been really effective in working in Europe with the public payer networks there, and driving to accelerate our timelines to ensure that our products are available rapidly for patients, and that clinicians have more choices to get great outcomes for those patients.
So looking ahead, what's next for BeOne? So what excites you most about our future and the impact that we have on cancer, not just in North America, but worldwide?
Yeah. There's so much to be excited about, right? And I think at our organization, it starts with the foundation around the science and the way that we can apply it clinically. Again, I think that our differentiated capability in discovery and research is going to allow us to continue to have a deep and wide pipe across numerous MOAs, numerous targets. And we believe that we're going to be able to continue to generate, best-in-class molecules. And then we'll put that into a clinical development platform that will be accelerated and that will allow us to bring patients to regulators, to payers, but most importantly, to patients as quickly as possible. And along the way, we're going to want to make sure that our medical affairs and our commercial and our affordability and accessibility capabilities match that pace of innovation, that we continue to be innovative in the way that we do it. And so while the big picture of what we're going to do for society and patients really excites me, I think the other thing that really gets me fired up is the way that we are growing, and we have more and more colleagues that represent best in industry talent continue to join the company, and we want them to have the best experience of their careers when they're a part of this, purpose-driven and mission-driven culture.
Yeah, every time a new job goes up on LinkedIn or on our career page, I feel like I get 25 messages in my LinkedIn saying, "Can you help me get in? I want to work at this company. I want to work at this company." So it's kind of amazing. So.
Yeah, when I was thinking of joining the organization, and was initially contacted about the opportunity, as I mentioned, I was excited because I was aware of the great performance the company had with a BTK inhibitor, and was also aware a little bit of the pipe. And I studied more about the pipe and the operating model that the company's got. But another thing I did was just take a look on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was able to scroll through all of the open roles that the company was hiring for that were posted on LinkedIn. I kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and then finally I just stopped because I think I'd gotten the point that there was some really dramatic growth underway.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So thank you so much for being on, Matt. You've been a great guest, and I really appreciate you sharing what your view of North America is and telling us a little bit about your background. So thank you so much.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. I'm just excited for what we're able to do in North America to help patients. We think that North America is a vital part of this bigger model that the company is pursuing on a global basis. And every day it's exciting to be a part of growth, and it's exciting for our colleagues to have a really phenomenal experience being part of the organization.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Matt.
My pleasure.
Be sure to follow us and subscribe to our podcast on Amazon, Spotify, Apple, or iHeart. You can also subscribe to the video version of the podcast on YouTube. Thanks so much.